Hello and welcome to another episode of Sports and Songs Podcast. We're on season 5, episode number 12. Tonight's the Songs edition. Andy, how are you?
I am good. And yourself?
Good. This is our last episode for the month of January. We head into February with a special on our Thursday night. So this is the last.
That's Dan's album review for a while.
It's last one for Dan's album review for a while. It's I looked it up. I think this is our 186th review of an album since we started. So,
and I can't believe we haven't done this one yet. I really don't.
Well,
I thought for sure we would hit this the first.
For those who don't know, what you will be finding out soon, the album review tonight is Whitesnake, and we've only done one. We did Slide It In 1984.
Yep.
But tonight's 1987, or just self-titled album, is Whitesnake, the one that everyone knows about, everyone knows the songs, everyone probably knows the songs by heart.
The videos.
I mean, this Whitesnake album that came out in 1987 was the biggest one, and we've been doing this for almost 200 album reviews, and we haven't gotten to this yet. So yes, I too am surprised that we haven't touched on this one. Now, when this came out, of course, I'm sure your tape cassette was worn out.
Oh, yes.
Playing it front and back, both sides.
Or as we learned last week, back to front.
Back to front, yes. And so this is, for all you David Coverdale fans out there, this is the Whitesnake album that was released in 1987, self-titled. And this came out by Geffen Records, and the track list was unbelievable. It sold 8 million copies in the U.S. alone. And Andy, it's considered glam metal and hard rock. 42 minutes long is the U.S. version. The European version of this album was 53 minutes, as it had a bunch of different songs on there. But we'll all remember the songs here, the 4 that they released. Just by listing off the names, everyone will know this. Still of the Night was their first album released. The single, March of 87. I remember that when that came out. Awesome stuff. And then Is This Love in May. And then June, it came out with Here I Go Again. And then finally in January of 88, the following year, Give Me All Your Love. So they released 4 songs, 4 music videos that got extremely heavy rotation.
Yes, Lord.
So let's see now, where do we want to start? The reason I like Whitesnake, and I think you do too, because they've been around for a while. We like their earlier work when they were in the heavy metal, kind of a bluesy band. But
yes,
it's got mixtures and styles reminiscent of Led Zeppelin, Scorpions, and Foreigner.
Yeah, I hear that in there.
It makes sense. Coverdale always reminded me of another type of a Robert Plant frontman.
Yep.
Good heavy metal music. A lot of sexual innuendos. All their songs are about women. The relationship songs. It's all a lot of love songs in this album, Andy.
Yes.
So here's what they did. They released it. The album before this was 1984, Slide It In. David Coverdale was on the verge of basically bankruptcy. He didn't have a hit. They didn't have a band. They had trouble getting guys together to do this. They had Geffen Records, and they pulled some guys in, and they needed to do a big deal just to make their money back. This was going to be it for David Coverdale. I mean, he floundered around for years. He was a former, Deep Purple guy. Mm-hmm. And what they did, Andy, was 2 of the songs were throwbacks that they redid. They remixed, essentially. Here I Go Again was really the 87 version of the 1982 song, I think. And Crying in the Rain was a 1982 song, I think, as well, that they redid to make it for a fresh sound for this new album. So they had 2.
I don't think they ever released those songs, but he just wrote them with Deep Purple. Did he ever record them, though?
They were recorded. I don't know if they were released as singles.
Okay.
And then Still the Night was based on an old demo by David Coverdale and Deep Purple with
Yep.
guitarist Richie Blackmore. So that's another earlier, song. They had some new, fresh, original material, but for the most part, the 9 songs here, 3 of them were ones that they had done in the past. In fact, you know, so here we go. Crying in the Rain. Here's the track listings. Crying in the Rain. That's that basically an 87 redo by David Coverdale. 5 minutes, 37 seconds. Great work there. The next song is one of my favorites, Bad Boys.
Yes.
That's more your hard rock. Still the Night, same kind of a deal, hard rock song. Here I Go Again. Very well done. Give Me All of Your Love is song 5. Song 6.
That's a good car driving song right there.
Yes. Now, before I go any further, there was one of these, and you might know the answer already. One of these, I think it's Is This Love, was written for Tina Turner.
I had not heard that.
All right, I'll find it. Yes. And Is This Love? That's she turned it down, or they got it before she sang it, but it was meant for her to sing, I think. And then song 7, Children of the Night, another good song. Straight for the Heart, another good song. And then Don't Turn Away. That maybe, if you want to call a throwaway in there, maybe Don't
Yeah.
Turn Away. Nothing that big, but it's
As far as
9
I'm
songs.
concerned, it is, yeah.
8 songs, good. They've got the love ballads. They've got the poppy, kind of the commercial sound for some of these, and it really brought in a mainstream crowd. What was your thoughts when this album first came out?
Like I said, came out perfect time. The heart, the heat of the hair bands. It was there, and the research I did, and maybe I had blinders on when I saw this. We talked a few months back how Coverdale was kind of redoing one more Whitesnake, Greatest Hits, and want all the guys to come back to play on the songs. Because if you look at their lineup, it was always changing every album. And I couldn't find in the research if it was because David Coverdale was hard to work with. Was it just, hey guys, can you help me do an album? And he got people in for other bands. I don't know why. He always had these what seemed like all-star bands all the time. I mean, look at who recorded this album. When you get to that later, and who was in the videos were different people. The band even changed from that to that point for who toured.
Yeah, I think it was after the recording was done, I think everyone in the band was fired.
Yeah, they all got their check and left and said, see you bye. Then the songs started going. It's like, could we throw some guys together for our video? I mean, just look at some of the names he got in here if I can find it real quick. Did I write it down?
Here we go. I got the answer for the other question. Is This Love was originally written for Tina Turner.
Yep.
That was it. Whoever wrote that was meant for her to sing.
Okay, in the new lineup for the videos, Coverdale listed Adrian Vandenberg, who I'm friends with on Facebook. Second guitarist was Vivian Campbell, who's now in Def Leppard.
Yep.
Rudy Sarzo from Quiet Riot and Whitesnake and Ozzy and everybody other great artists of the time. And Tommy Aldridge, who'd done work with him before. So there's an all-star lineup right there. And they were called the Vid Kids because that's the guys in the videos.
Okay.
They didn't record the videos. I believe they toured afterwards. But look at Vivian Campbell went on to Def Leppard afterwards. Rudy Sarzo, look at his resume beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't just grab a handful of studio musicians. He was grabbing some good players all the time.
Yeah, it shows here Ansley Dunbar, drums and percussion, Don Airy on keyboards, Neil Murray on bass, and John Sykes, guitars and backing vocals. This version of Whitesnake, the recorded.
Yep.
And John Sykes came from a big blues. His background was more blues, and he wasn't really into heavy metal and rock. And so they butted heads, and some of these guys were very good musicians, but they didn't get along personally with each other. There was a lot of issues, I think, from a personality perspective, and maybe that was the case. And I don't know if David Coverdale's is hard to work for, if he's a perfectionist, things like that, but they had issues. Now, they had this delay before the album came out. And guess what? Coverdale came out with a serious sinus infection. This is the lead vocalist.
Yep.
And so that put the album's productions, behind schedule. And then especially after he underwent surgery and a half a year long rehabilitation program without even a guarantee that his voice would come back. So the rumors were this. They said, hey, he may not get his voice back. Rumors came out from Toronto and London, saying that Sykes, the guitarist, said, hey, he went to Geffen because he was impatient. Went to Geffen Records and says, can you get us another vocalist to do the Whitesnake album? Now, it came out later that there was no truth to that, but they said, well, you can't have a Whitesnake album without David Coverdale.
Yeah, this is one band where if you change the lead singers, you've changed the band.
You can. And later on, it came out, and he said that was never true. That's rubbish. How on earth could you ever have anyone fronting Whitesnake apart from David Coverdale? So Coverdale recovered, started work on his vocal tracks, and it just wasn't, the same because he wasn't back basically 100%. They needed from a vocalist, you need 100%. They rattled off 2 songs when it was early on there in the recording studio. He turned in the other room and almost vomited because that's how much the pain he was in. And
That's why a
so,
lot of these songs have long guitar solos.
yes. So they have a lot of personal differences. I like it. I like the album. I like the album cover, the music. I love this entire album. Just playing it. The videos were good. Now, David Coverdale was dating Tawny Katane at the time, and so she's featured in 3 of the videos,
Yes, she
and
is.
featured very prominently, albeit very prominently. So that I think helped as far as the record sales. There was
Yeah,
a
the videos
commercial. It was
help a lot.
it
But
was
yeah,
radio friendly. When I was in school, a lot of people who didn't know earlier Whitesnake thought I really like this new band, this really radio friendly commercial kind of teeny bopper music that's not really heavy metal, but I think it's hard rock, but they all love it, and they're like, well, others said, well, Whitesnake's been around for a long time, and so is David Coverdale. They've been around, and they just took this long hiatus, and now they came out and really went clean and cleaned up on this rather than just being more
well,
bluesy, heavier. So they've been around, but I
well,
think David Coverdale. I'll go
here's,
ahead.
here's what Coverdale said about that is he wanted the band's sound for this album to be leaner, meaner, and more electrifying. Felt it was time for a change. I didn't want to stay the same old traditional blues and pop scenario. It was kind of Americanized, but rather than follow popular trends. It was a sense of the elements of the time together. However, Coverdale recalls that the only downside was it was the only time I'd embraced the fashion presentation as opposed to being stylized in what I do. I think that disappointed a lot of my hardcore people, which was the kind of bump on this album. Kind of like, I'm not comparing their music styles, so stop right there at the hate mail ahead of time. I'm talking about how it reacted. A lot of Metallica's fans, when they came out with Injustice for All and afterwards, the old school Metallica guys were like, what is this crap? And some of the old school Whitesnake guys were kind of saying that about this one. It kind of wasn't that old school Whitesnake sound.
Yeah, that's what you and I more like, the harder edge,
Right.
raw stuff from the early Whitesnake albums. What we like, this one here is more commercialized, it's more friendly, but it's
I
also very
still like it.
good.
Yes, I like the older stuff better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just good. Now, Whitesnake and Coverdale have always been up there and in the mix, but they've never been a top 5 band per se, right? They've never been a top at the end of the year. So look, this album comes out. Who they're up there with is it was Michael Jackson's Bad, Whitney Houston's Whitney. These were the top sellers in the charts. This album never got a chance to get into the top
Yeah.
1 or 2 slots because of these other albums at the time.
Yeah, it's stuck at number 2 for what it was like 8 weeks or 10 weeks. It's Whitney Houston's Whitney album, the La Bamba soundtrack, and Michael
Oh,
Jackson's Bad.
okay.
So kind of like it just came out. Timing was bad. They were the number 2 guy for a while to everybody else, but I'd be okay being number 2 to those 3 albums.
Yes. Yeah. So It was interesting, this album too, and doing the research. I didn't know this at the time, but there was the UK version, the
Yep.
US version. One was called 1987. One had extra tracks. Some had different running orders. The tracks were in different
Yeah.
orders as well. Now they said on the vinyl they had some issues because of the time. The running time typically on a side of vinyl is roughly 20 minutes, is what you get,
Right.
and so they were limited to what could be released on the vinyl. So they had some issues there, but yeah, the top five artists that year were Bon Jovi, U2, Whitney Houston, Madonna, and they considered Whitesnake a dark horse coming in there with these big heavy hitters. What an honor to be up there in the top five with those guys. And this was the biggest, the best Whitesnake album. So a lot of sales, 8 million, made a lot of money. Coverdale was on the brink of disaster. And I think the best move he made, other than the music, was probably dating Tawny Katane at the time and getting her involved in these, the high school male audiences like you and I, Andy, were
Yes.
watching all of these, heavily watching these music videos that were unbelievable, and buying the music. I didn't see these guys in concert, but I think it would have been a good show. Have you seen them on
No, I've
live?
not seen them in concert. I have heard other bands cover their songs. I've not seen Whitesnake themselves. No.
Yep. So anyway, good stuff. But that's all I've got on this. A very popular album. A lot of good songs. Go back and watch. They've had some reissues. 20th anniversary edition. There's a lot of. I think the original is all that a person needs in this case. But
Yeah.
all right, here we go. Let's. I'll pull up your information here. There we go.
There it is. Just got some concert stuff really here for you. So between these concerts, and of course you can catch Mike down at the mall to get concert tickets too.
Of course.
Start at the Bowl tomorrow night. If you're watching this tonight as we record it, if you're catching this the next day, then later tonight, Dan will be at this show. Bring your own Sharpie; he'll sign for you.
I'll be live promoting show live, taking some photos, checking out the great location there for a venue, and also two great bands.
And Dan will be the one drinking the ham. So if you come up with the hams for him, he'll sign anything you want.
Oh yes.
February 2nd at the Bowl, Pop Rocks. I was just kind of funny. It's Pop Rocks. That show guy is Ozzy. I kind of get a giggle out of that.
This draws a lot of people. I mean,
These guys are
300 people plus at the show. It'd be a good one to go to this one.
These would be fun guys. I've never seen these guys. I've heard lots of good things about them though.
Okay.
The 70s Magic Sunshine Band, the 23rd. Kind of on my want to see list a little bit.
Yeah, that would be good.
And then Sugar Buzz March 1st down at the Bowl.
These guys get a good draw as well. They travel well.
Yes, they do.
Good music. Everyone's going to know their songs.
Yeah,
it's going to be pretty fun stuff.
And also, there's more good shows we put on our page. We want to go as far as March 1st today because I need stuff for next week's show. Over at Medina, Firehouse with Sweet, February 10th, 21 plus show. Lita Ford and Steelheart, the 24th.
Okay, I got to write that down. I never did get tickets. Are you going to this one?
No. No.
Okay.
There's a couple other things I'll talk to you about later off air about that day that we might want to do too. I don't know.
Gotcha. Okay, this would be interesting. I've never seen Lita Ford live in concert. That would be a good one to see.
Dokken and Bullet Boys, March 2nd.
Okay.
That should be an interesting show. And that's what I got, sir. Now, I'm not saying there's other bands at those other shows at those venues. That's just the ones we're promoting.
That's the one I think you had interest to go to, that Dokken and Bullet Boys one, right?
Yeah, that one's kind of got me intrigued a little bit. Yeah. Might be a less
chance. I'm leaning toward the Lita Ford one, but they're both, I think, the same weekend or within 7 days.
Yeah, there's something else with Lita Ford. Like I said, we'll talk off air because potential guest coming up on that one.
Oh.
Not Lita Ford, but somebody else that day.
Oh, my heart almost stopped. My heart.
Your heart stopped.
My heart almost stopped there. That would be awesome.
That'd
So
be-
anyway, that's all I've got for tonight. Whitesnake album, some concerts, some good music coming up. Once again, I'll be posting some photos from the show tomorrow night from the Shakopee Bowl, probably Saturday morning, but that should be a good show. Mad Alice, a combination of Mad Season and Alice in Chains. So the first band is called Grime. They're all 90s as well. So a lot of grunge. It's going to be a full day of evening of grunge, and looking forward to it. I got into that a little later on in life, and was not part of it at the beginning. There was one of those things I despised at the time. I hated all that stuff.
Yeah, but you're going through that ugly time in life where you hated everything. So
Then I got into a section, a decade where I just started when it all made sense. I did the research, did the
it
homework,
all
and
came clear to you then.
I visited Seattle.
The blinders were off.
I did one of those music tours where you get on a tour and they go to 15 stops of music related in the city of Seattle. We did that, my wife and I, and got to see different apartments of who died where and who overdosed where. And
Stood in the alley where this guy died and rode in the cab where that guy died. And no, it was great.
it's Seattle's. It's just a happening place. But that's all I've got. Have a good week, everyone.
One thing real quick, if anyone knows, please put in the comments why David Coverdale always had different band members all the time. Was it him? Was it the bands? What's the story?
Good question. He probably was a hard guy to work with, but I don't know.
I don't
so
know for sure.
Someone else will know a little
never really
more
heard.
about that.
Anyone knows, please put in the comments below and let us know.
All right, sounds good. Have a good week.